Ruchim Aboim B'Shem Hashem, B'Shem Yegin Shiritar, welcome everyone to today's shir from Harav Yakov Smith Shlita on Chupa Minhagim. That the great Chupa sponsoring a shir. Call Yegin Shiritar at 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Harav Smith.
Recently I spoke to a choson who got married, and he said he made a big mistake. Not that the marriage was a mistake, don't worry. But he said he didn't prepare for the chasana. He went through the chupa, and there was so much significance, but he wasn't aware why we do this, what it's supposed to be all about. And I told him I'm going to kabel yoschos. We'll try to learn a shir about the chupa minhagim la'or halacha. Now, what really to me the biggest is pilus, because l'chayra minhagim la'or halacha is a stira. Minhagim are very important. Now let me be very clear. Minhagim are the nitzchis of Klal Yisrael. And I always thought befrat the minhagim of chasana, a tremendous zehirus that we need, because a choson, a kala, they miyaseh their own home. And what's the hatzlacha of a yiddish home? That you follow the Messiah. Chasam Soifen Even Ezer, in the end of Siman Tzadik Ches, he writes to someone that wanted to change minhagim, the chasana. He says, if you want a bracha, you stick with the minhagim. If you want to lose the bracha, then you do what you want. I heard this story years ago, and when I learned this again now, I found it in the Shulchan HaEzet, Amud Lamed Beis. Rabbi Tzion Yadla, the Magid Shalayim, told the story that there was a chupa, and they forgot to sing Miyadir. So, okay, they want to go weiter. The Mesader Kedushin then was a Bishul Leib Diskin, and he refused to Mesader Kedushin until they sang Miyadir. Why? Because it's a minhag. That's the reason. A minhag Yisrael, Torah. So every minhag is heilig, but especially the minhagim of the chasana. But how do you call it la'or halacha? So that's the beauty of today, as we'll see, that the sugya is takim minhagim, but come out, all of them are gemaras, rishayim, just like a regular sugya. And Adar I is to try to find one yesod. I'm going to try to clarify what exactly is the theme or the essence of the time of the chuppah. And I'll give you a few choices. Some sound familiar, some don't, but I think that we're going to show that all are true. Is this man of the chuppah mechilas avoinus? Is it choson daima lemelech? Is it na'ala Yushalayim aroy simchasi? Is it aveilus on Yushalayim? And maybe it's gilu v'ra'ada, and maybe it's all of it. Now, let me explain. I'm going to try to go in order and basically go from step to step. The Gemara in Bava Basra, Daf Samach Amud Beis, teaching the pasuk in Tehillim, Im eshkachechu Yushalayim, Im lo ya'alu Yushalayim aroy simchasi. What does it mean, aroy simchasi? Ze eife mikla sheberosh chasanim. This is the minhag of putting ashes on the chason's forehead. Actually, the sunsi forehead is inaccurate on his head. Where do you put it? It's up to Gemara. B'mokem tefillin, and the Gemara quotes a pasuk in Yeshaya. And the Gemara concludes, "Hamasabu Yishalayim zoich v'roy b'simchasa," and if not, chas v'shalom, he doesn't see. Zokter Rashbam. So we see the minhag was that they put ashes on his head. Now, this is a very powerful description of one of the minhagim. It's a Gemara. But the question is now, he's getting married. It's not Tisha B'Av. Why are you remembering Yishalayim now? But that's exactly the point. One of the important objectives of the chuppah is Ales Yishalayim aroy simchasi. We'll soon see how the ability to juggle the two, but one thing I'll tell you, in the Siddur Yaibitz, and today in the new print, it's Chelik Beis, Amud Reish Chav Dal, and I quote, Mi yoideya, shema kama lo yitzlichu zivugim, ba'avoin zeh, she'enam samam alev, avelus Yishalayim b'shas simchasam. The Yaibitz was saying maybe the person doesn't have atzlacha in establishing his bias, his migdash ma'at, because he didn't think about Yishalayim b'shas ma'isam. And this is certainly the objective of putting on ashes, dafka now. It's not Tisha B'Av, it's not Rosh Simchasi, but that's the objective. And the Shulchan Aruch, interestingly enough, devotes a whole siman, Tavkuf Samach, 5 seifim, different things that we do, Zeichel L'Chorban. Amal Ama, not to fully set the table, leave out one of the courses, not to wear all jewelry, Eifa Mikla, like we just saw, not to play music, a terrorist choson and kala, and not to be overly happy during the time of Golus. A whole siman of Shulchan Aruch, and the Bialacha quotes the Chayodim that pointed out very sadly, Tzarachiyin shekol zeh ein minhagin klal. But at least we could understand one thing we do is this minhag. You know, it's amazing, but there's a self-imposed halacha, Issa, that was made in Yerushalayim a little over 150 years ago, that there shouldn't be music even by one's own chasana. It's ma'aval arayin. Music by a chasana is definitely mutter. So the main reason was there was a terrible magefa, and it claimed many lives. But Shulei Diskin said that the real reason was, if you're so close to Yerushalayim, how could you play music? You're right there. To us chasana, you're worrying about music. But that's al rosh simchasi. This is the halacha twice in Shulchan Aruch. In Archaim Tofkuf Samach Siv Beis and Even Ezer Siman Samachei Gimel Tzarach Laseis Eife Beroish HaChoson. This is basically the makar of the minhag. Now, some are not a nizer, but to my knowledge today it's much more common. And after hearing what the Ayvit says, I think we'll do it right, Be'ez Hashem. On whom do you put this Eifer Mikla? So al pisvara, it's lav dafka choson. It's not as man grama. Kal is also mechuyev in Eles Yerushalayim, and as early as the Medrash Tehillim on that pasuk, im loy ela ze eifer shenoisim beroish chasanim uveroish kala beroish simchasim. So there definitely was a minhag that they put around the kalas. However, from the Gemara is clear, kishachasan noisa isha, you put on the eifer. The Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch quotes in both places, "Kishachosin noisa isha," you put on the choson the ashes. Now, so therefore, we'll say the minhag is today only on the choson. But there was a different minhag, and the Kolboy in Siman Samach Beis, one of the Rishonim, and the Meiri says it as well, that they didn't put on ashes on choson or kala, but they put a sort of a headband, something, they wore something special, zeichel l'churban. The Beis Yosef in Tofkuf Samach quotes the Torah in Even Ezer that in Svard they wore a headband made out of olives. Just like olive is bitter, so too is the churban. And that was worn by both choson and kala. So basically we see the Minhagim have a tremendous source in halacha. The time Minhagim, Amid Reish Tzadik Dalet quotes a Medrash Eliyahu, that was a Shevet HaMusa. And you see how Yidden live with churban. That there was a certain city that they only wore black clothing because of the churban. And by the chasana, there was a levush miyuchad, a special gown, whatever, clothing for the choson and kala that they wore by the chasana. But b'shas kedushin, they put on tachrichim. So they wore the special chasana, they wore tachrichim. And of course they had the ashes, but listen to the minhag, that they took the ashes after the chupa and they ate it with eggs in the yichud room. That was their meal. And in such a city, he concluded, they fasted every Monday and Thursday on Golus Hashchina. So of course, we are unfortunately distant from this, but whatever we do, at least when we do put the ashes, it should have the meaning. The next question, which seems to be simple, but it's not, who puts on the ashes? So the emphasis from the Gemara, there's no indication. The Gemara says, Afa, Mikla, B'Rosh Chasanim. But if you look in both Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch, Kishechasan Noisa Isha, Loikeach Eifer Mikla. So it seems that the Chasan himself put it on. However, in Even Ezer, the Shulchan Aruch Lashon Tzarach Laseis Eifer B'Rosh Chasan. Not that he puts it on himself, they put it on him. What's shot? Why can't he do it himself? Why do you need someone else to do it? So you look in the earliest sources, the Maril, Avi Minhag Ashkenaz, and Amid Tov Samachei, he was the one that put the ashes on the Rosh of the Choson. I saw B'Shleim Zalman Oyebach and Shalmei Simcha, Kuf Samachtes, when he was Masada Kedushin, he himself would put the ashes on the head of the Choson. Our minhag, or the minhag of most people, is the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch and Kuf Mem Zayin Ches quotes it, HaShoshvina, which typically is the two fathers, they put the ashes onto the Rosh Choson. Now you're wondering, why can't he do it himself? So maybe this is an expression of choson daimel melech. A melech doesn't do things, you do it for him. Or maybe it has a different connotation. The Mishnah Tainis Daf Tes Vav says when there's a terrible Eis Sarah, so they made a self-imposed Tainis. And the Mishnah has a whole description of what went on. One of the ceremonies, so to speak, is they put Eifa Mikla B'Roish Hanasi U'B'Roish Av Bezdin. On the two leaders, they put on this ashes. And then everybody put ashes on themselves. So for the Gemara, everybody put it on themselves, so why the Roish Av Bezdin and Nasi you have to put on him? So the Gemara says a very powerful message, because they're the leaders, and it's more embarrassing, it's more of a statement when someone puts it on you. If you do it yourself, okay. But someone puts it on you, that's a very shocking, powerful statement. A leader needs a stronger treatment. Now, I don't think the choson is getting punished, but he's the choson, he's the melech, he's the leader, and we try to make a stronger message, so someone else puts it on him. That's probably what the hesber is. It's just more of a powerful message in a time that he is the melech at that point. What do you put? So the Gemara says, Eifa Mikla. It basically, the interesting thing, in Tafkuf Ayin Tes Sif Alf and Shulchan Aruch, but Hilchas Tainis, it says, what does Eifa Mikla mean? Anything that you burn, and the remaining ashes is called Eifa Mikla. So if you forgot to prepare ashes, it's not the end of the world. Take a piece of paper, burn it, don't sound the smoke alarm, of course, and, that's all you need. I'm waiting for them to start selling, the special Eifa Mikla kit, like they have the 10 pieces of chametz, everything's to make some money. But basically, you don't have to have a great skill. Anything that's burnt, the ashes remains. An important question is, where exactly do you put this ashes? So for some reason people think you're supposed to smear it on his forehead. So he goes down to the chuppah looking very unkempt, and in every picture by the chuppah, he looks like he couldn't wash his face when he comes to the chuppah, he's all dirty. It's not true. The Gemara says, we don't put tefillin on the forehead, we put tefillin higher than the hairline. So that's why the right thing, the only thing is to put it on the head. In the Rabbi Yashiv Seifa, in Siyuni Halach Amud Vav, he says it, a little typical Rabbi Yashiv, he says, you don't have to make him dirty. You take a little ashes, wrap it up with a tissue or in a bag, and put it under his hat, and it's there for the chuppah. That's B'Roish Simchasi. That's Mokam Anachas Tefillin. So I saw, of course, 3 Chadushim. First of all, you don't have to don't smear it on his forehead. That's Keneged Gemara. Also, you could wrap it up. And number 3, it doesn't have to be visible. It's on his Mokam of the Mok Tefillin. So you can put it under the yarmulke or under the hat, and that's fine. And I saw the Maril also, what is it, Ashkenaz, he put it tachas matrein al roishe, under the hat that they wore. In fact, the Aruch Shulchan in Archaim seems to suggest that the minhag was that after they put it on his head, they took it off. So he goes down to the chuppah clean. However, the Shulchan Ezra, Amud Chav Zayin, Amud Beis, he writes, that's not our minhag, maybe it was where Aruch Shulchan was the rub, and we keep it on until after the chuppah al roish simchasi. The next question is, when is this minhag done? So, of course, we think you do it before you go to the chuppah. In the Gemara, there's no mention when it's done, but from the earlier Poiskim Maril, it seems it was done not just before the chuppah. In fact, Rabbi Yashiv said the minhag by him was that before the choson went to the badekin, he put on the ashes on the head of the choson. And I would understand that from an halachic perspective, because really one of the kinyanim that you kain an isha, like according to some, is with the badekin, vatikach hatzoev, vatiskas. And some have that minhag that they put it on before the badekin. I think most people do it after the badekin, before you go to the chuppah. No doubt about it that the minhag has a lot of halacha to it. As we see, it's based on Gemaras. Now, the next question is interesting. Some wait to do this minhag until after the nesuin under the chuppah. Because really, before the Nesuin, he's not yet married. So he's not a choson, not Daimel Melech. But the emes is not the minhag in most places, and the Svaris Pashit, halacha seems to recognize the choson as a melech, even from the off roof, you start having a shoyma. Okay, the emes, I'm not so sure it's halacha so Pashit, but some people, when the choson comes to shul in the morning of the chasana, they skip tachlin. Even though really it should be the mincha before the chasana, but it's a special tainig he didn't have, so we've again the tainig. But it's hard to say that he's not a choson at all until after the nesuin. I mean, that's when the chalois is. So the minhag, I think, in Rav Mekayim is after the badekin, before the chupa, then we do this minhag. Is there anything said when you put the ashes on or he puts it on? So it makes sense if you want it to work. Dibur is ma'ayir. Mishnah says when you buy something the covered Shabbos, say the covered Shabbos, because the dibur is poyel harbe. And Taka the Taz in Tafkuf Samasiv Kat and Dalid, when he speaks about this minhag, he says, I saw a minhag, and it's a wonderful Nachainu, it's right, that when the Shamish tells the choson, let's say together, the pasuk of Meshkacheich Yerushalayim. And Rabbi Yashua had that same minhag. Rav Osno also would tell the choson, say the pasuk Im Meshkacheich Yerushalayim. Okay, you don't have to say it on the microphone, it's not part of the text of the chasana. But whether you say it or not, it has to set the tone of what really it's supposed to do. It's a day of mechilas avoinus, it's a day of a tremendous potential, and it has to be done right. The next minhag, also an important minhag, is the kitel. Now the kitel, again, we'll see the minhag la'or halacha. It's a minhag, but there's so much in halacha about the, quote, simple minhag of a kitel. The Kolbai says that they put a nezer al roishai, and that is the lekayin kechosn yechaher per. Obviously, that's one of the themes, choson, daimel melech. So now we can start to understand a little bit about the kitel. First of all, kitel by a chupa is not, it's like once in a lifetime, but twice a year we wear a kitel, Pesach and Yom Kippur. No, let's see what's doing by Pesach, Yom Kippur, and apply it. So in Yom Kippur, the kitel has a dual function. It's taharas avoinus, white, kashel galbinu, and it's also daimel malach. Perkat Eliezer says you wear white, daimel malach. But then again, by both Yom Kippur and even Pesach, there's another message, and that is yaskil Yom Amisa. They say one of the gedolim, when he would take off his kitel after the Seder Pesach, he would say, "Gedenks kinderlich." This year I'm taking it off after the Seder, but it comes a time they put on a kitel and he doesn't take it off. A very subtle message, Yaskil Yom Amisa. That's even Yom Kippur, that's even Pesach, certainly Yom Kippur. And the Tishkach, all of the reasons apply to a choson as well. Obviously, Melech, choson daimel melech, it's a beged malchus. Malach with an aleph, malach without an aleph, melech. He's beginning to build a bayis neman. Avada, it's a derech cheres, like by Pesach. Cheres mavoinis. It's a choson that has a negat. You don't even look at it during the Sheva Brachas. Naki yila beisoi shana achas. There's also a tremendous tahara. Tremendous tahara, a nekius, the mechilas avoinis. And that's why the kolba in Siman Ayin Hey, to wear white clothing, l'kayim b'chol eis yeva g'decha levonim. He also has a fresh start. He's coming in pure. The Derech Chassidus Derech Chaim and the Kitzah both say yaskiloi v'yisayra l'tshuva. So in this quote simple minhag, there's everything there. Daimel melech, cheirus, yaskiloi amisa. But what's interesting is everything is there in this simple minhag. There's an interesting tshuva, the Mshik in Even Ezer Siman Peiches, where choson refused to wear a kitel. And he said, because it's a lag v'keles be'enei hagoyim, he's embarrassed. Now this is what the Mamshik had to deal with the beginning of Reform and Conservative. So he writes back, a sharp lashon, what you said, it's lag v'keles, sheker. By us the word sheker is almost nivel peh, but he says sheker, it's a lie. I heard, I don't know who he heard from, Michashuvei Umas Ha'olam. Shik said he heard it from one of the Chashuvei Umas Ha'olam, that they praise this minhag because it's a very profound message. Kirak HaMoves Yafrid Beinayim. That's the Yaskal Misa to show that they're together. And then he adds also, quoting Chachmi Umas Ha'olam, that Lamaisa, getting married, there's a concern he might be too involved in Taivus. And this is to teach him to be pure in his motivation when getting married. Imagine when a goy has that verstand. I can't say that's the kavanas of Chazal, but we see a ganze Torah Shleima Minhagim. It reminds me, Rapam once said, someone told him, he doesn't know why you go around the Kala goes around the choson 7 times, but this person, I think it's to show that the center of my life. So Rapam said, I don't think that's what Chazal had in mind, but if it helps, think about that as well. But this is again, Daim Lamelech, Yaskem Amisa, B'chalei Yivagdecha Levonim, Tahara Michet. Who wears a kitel? So the emphasis is all these reasons apply to a kal like the choson. Don't forget, kala daim lamalka. That they once saw a remes. Ketzad meragdin lefnei hakala is vashatevis malka. Choson daim lamalka to a kal as well. But then again, by Yom Kippur and Pesach, some of the reasons apply to a woman also, but it's not done. And probably just like on Yom Kippur, the Nashim Tzidkanis wear something white on Yom Kippur. So by the chupah, they have the white gown. Zil Basatayma, I saw a number of poiskim, but Beroishim, the Shevet Alevi, Rav Ozna, who Taka got married a second time, he said, Avada, the kitel is worn even by a civic. The minhag he doesn't wear kitel not on Yom Kippur and not on Pesach. So the Eidus Yisrael, one of the Suin, he says, you know why he doesn't? Because he already wore it. So I realized that he has to put it on by the chuppah and wear it with such a lasting effect, it has to go the entire year. What he wears by the chuppah is helping him for Yom Kippur and on Pesach. How is it done? So you wonder, what do you mean? Put on the kitel, right? He's a big boy. But if we understand that one of the objectives is derech cheres, so like Pirkei Bez says, ma melech mal bishanoisai, so that's why others put it on. But then again, you see again the depth of every minhag that a choson wears a kitel avada, but there's a minhag, a kpeda is a better word, that he wears a coat over the kitel, even if it's hot weather outdoor chuppah during the summer, you wear a coat. Why? Because you can't forget that this is a moment of simcha. We have to have that balance, that mixture of the gilul birad. So he has to have a kitel, but it has to be covered. It is yom simchasai. So again, the blend has to be maintained. But again, when you see something interesting, many people have this minhag, many don't, but those that have the minhag, I wonder if you know why, that the left hand, he doesn't put on the clothing on the left hand. Why not? The kitel is not be on the left hand. So Gemara in Moed Cotton and Shulchan Aruch Yerdei Shin Mem Sif Tezvav quotes it that on Avelis of Avav Imoy, this called Chalitzas Kasef, you don't wear that sleeve. So it's a pliya. We do some intense Avelis during the chuppah. Now, of course, he doesn't go to the chuppah wearing slippers, so it's not an Avelis. But it's somewhat to keep that blend to remind him of the opportunity of the moment. Now, what's interesting, and again, you see again the oimik of Minhagim, why Taka is the minhag that he doesn't put it on himself, and why do we see a minhag that only the shver puts it, and some say both fathers? So I saw in Pashat the Hezbollah that Lamaisa, maybe it's not a good simon if the father's putting on his son, Beged Avelis or Simon Avelis. Now, not that the Shver could do it, but it's not the father. But it's interesting, some have the minhag that both put it on together, so that mitigates the Simon Loitov. They're putting it on together, and don't worry. But again, what's illuminating the Radvaz, he writes, minhag Kodem b'Mitzrayim, Radvaz, one of the Gdolei Sfarad, in Chelik Beis, Tovshin Tzaddik Gimel, he says the minhag is to wear something of white which is something close to the kitel, like we wear during the Avelis on Shabbos and Shabbos Eicha, which presumably is, of course, the Shabbos Chazoin. Mishum shenema v'gilu b'rada. So he already makes this connection. Gilu v'rada by Yid is not a steer. It's an attitude that we have to be very besimcha, but there has to be a tone of al rosh simchasi. So the ik of Yiddish guys, you have to know how to juggle the two, but that's really what brings the atzlacha. The ikka is, again, the gilu b'ra'ata. They say this, Hasemis once said, why do we wear a kitel on Pesach? Because typically before Pesach you get new clothing. You don't want to get them dirty, so you wear a kitel. Now, anybody knew this Hasemis had such oimek to him. He wasn't saying that a kitel is a bib. So, Pashtab Shart is Lamaisa, Pesach is Man Cheraseinu. And we have a certain tahara on Pesach, but we have to keep it a whole year. V'chol eis yivagdecha levanim. You wear a kitel to keep the clothing clean, not the physical clothing. But a person's midas, Chazal say, is begadim. Now that was said on Pesach, but I'm certain that the same is true for a choson. He has a tremendous tahara. Don't forget, even Machlas Bas Yishmael, who married Esav, got a tahara on the day of a chasana. How much more so an Eluch HaChosid? But the message of the kitel is, V'chol eis yivagdecha levanim, keep it clean. The next few minhagim, some are very makbid and some almost never heard of. And both are right. Let me explain. Of untying things before going to the chuppah, I'll say things, I'll explain why I said that word. But that's not quoted in Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Ezra in Amud Lamed Aleph Beis, he says that it's done to avoid kishuf. And interesting, he brings a makar on the pasuk of Lo Yachbol Rechayim V'Rechev. The Targum Yonason seems to allude to the beginning of such a minhag. Now, again, out of my range, but basically there's a concern that kshafim might get involved and not allow the choson and kala to be together. So the minhag is to untie knots. Now, exactly what knots mean? So some people open all knots of the shoelaces, of the tie, of the gartel, where the gartel wrapped in. Others are more maker with shoes, and the ik is any other knots. But lamaisa, this is why many never heard of it, because again, it's not quoted in the Shulchan Aruch or even in the later poskim. So who's right? The one that follows his minhag. Of course, that's the one that's right. A different minhag that the choson and kala before the chuppah, you empty out the pockets. Now, I always thought the hezbis pashut, there's an old chakira in the yeshiva bell, what's the chalois of kedushin? A whole shtickle from Rabbi Shimon and Baruch Ber. But to me, the chalois of kedushin is, till now, your parents paid for everything. Now, you're not paying. And as we know, more important is when a person is generous with his spouse. So maybe it's practice of being happily married. Empty out your pockets. Just keep on giving. That keeps everybody happy. But obviously there's more to it. The Shulchan Ezra, Amid Kufla Medvav, he says again, one of the major themes, Lahaski Yom Hamisa, Ki Loive Moisai Yikach Hakol. And that works very well with the kitel. Kitel, emptying out the pockets. Now the truth is, even in that, it's not a depressing message, because the pasuk is clear. It doesn't say you don't take anything. V'loi b'maisa yikach hakol. Torah and mitzvahs and chesed is eternal. So maybe it's remind the choson to make a good investment of your time, of your money, of your life. You'll take with you what's important to you. Make sure you invest in all of that. Now, the Rabbi Yashiv and Ashrei Ish and Amid Kufir Aleph, he said, Ein tzarech to open the knots, and Ein tzarech to empty the pockets, Ein tzarech to take off the jewelry, which is another thing we'll soon see. So again, who's right? Both are right. Some have the minhag and some don't. The minhag of taking off jewelry is the same idea. Don't forget, by the kal, this is more of a minhag because she doesn't have the kitel. So this is, I guess, sort of to supplement that. They take off the jewelry, even though that's the perfect time to wear jewelry by the chuppah. But this is something to remember, Yishalayim. Remember that it's not complete simcha. I always felt maybe there's a different message. A person's wearing jewelry, so you think about the jewelry. Is everything look nice? Under the chuppah is such precious time. I can't tell you enough how important the moments under the chuppah, the potential of it is. You know, my shver's mother, Aleh Shalom, established the beautiful Walpen Mishpacha, a malchus of Torah. I once asked my shver's mother, the Baba, I said, how were you zoich to such a family? She brought up a family in Seattle, Washington. She told me, with all tmimus, under the chuppah, I davened over and over, good to kinder, good to kinder, good to kinder. And there's enough distractions under the chuppah that take away from those moments. I always tell the choson, make up the kibbudim before you go to the chuppah and say, I'm out of it. If someone doesn't come, tell whoever's in charge, give it to anybody you want to make a list of alternates. But under the chuppah, choson and kala have to be kulei l'Hashem, kulei tefillah, kulei buying, beginning to buy a binyan adayad. So maybe it's a message. Forget about the jewelry, forget about all that, the externals, which is nice for the chasana, but not nice for now. Another very important part of the chuppah proceedings is the birchas habonim. Lamaisa, there are mechutanim, but do we need mechutanim? A person's heart is overflowing with simcha. Now is the time. There's no purer time in a person's life like Erev Chuppah. The Shulchan Aruch writes that the bracha to give the kala is the bracha of Achisein Atayi Alf. Now the emes is, even though we know who said it, but it's a minhag kodem to give that bracha by the chasana. If you want to see mechutanim dafka, the Adar Yisrael quotes from a Medrash and a Pirkei Eliezer, but I don't mechutanim for that heilige minhag. Some have the minhag. I saw the Adar Yisrael says to give the bracha simcha lekim b'chvayim b'chmanashe. Uvina ruach eitzer ruach das v'yirah. The Eitzer writes, Eitzur mevarchas v'kala u'mispalelem shezivugam yala yafa. Again, there's no other time like this time of such destiny. The tefillah is under the chuppah choson and kala for parents is really charting the course for the future. Chazal say, Al tia birchas hedje kala b'nech, and how about birchas oyavim, parents, in-laws? It's a time that has to be cherished. And if I could just suggest, I'm not saying it's dafka, but it's not the time for pictures. I'm nothing against photographers, but by my children's, before the chuppah, I told the photographer, now I'd like to have a little private time with my children. Not a time for pictures, it just takes away. It makes it into another photo op. I'm not saying it's wrong if you do, but the focus has to be, now is the time, the most precious time, and don't be distracted by anything else. Another perfect example of minhag la'or halacha is the minhag of going to the chuppah with neiros. Now, of course, it's a nice minhag, it's again a nice photo op, you're going with neiros, but miyachilanu, how much goes into that simple minhag? One of the Gedolei Rishonim, the Tashbitz, a Talmud of Aram Rutenberg, in Tashbitz Cotton Simon Tov Samach Zayin, he says, he had a different minhag. Mashazarkim neiros dalker, they used to throw torches. Don't do that today, please. But they used to throw fire. Remez Lamatan Torah, where it says there was lapidim. Now you're probably wondering, Matan Torah? I know that Choson Melech and it's Mechil Zavaynus. What does Matan Torah have to do with anything? So listen what he says. Nekoit hai kola biyadecha. Kol minhagim shel choson v'kala anu lameidim Matan Torah. Because the Rebbeinu Shalom was like the choson, keneged the kala, and that was Knesset Yisrael. So Arishan is saying that the analogy of a chuppah is to Matan Torah. The Rebbeinu Shalom is the choson and with the kala. A new appreciation in this in the chuppah is a mini kabbalas HaTorah. No, that's why we have the neiros. Okay, we don't throw neiros, but we have neiros. The Imrei Emes, when he put on his kitel, and then he put on the coat over the kitel, so he said, Eish chayra agabi eish levana. So he was at good kizot for shteitzer. Yafa kiven. Because that's one of the minhagim of the chuppah, to make it like Harsina, there was eish chayra agabi eish levana. But getting back to the neiros, if you like Ramazim, the Matei Moshe, Talmud of the Ramah, in page 213, he says, about you have to have two neiros for the choson and two for the kala. Because ner times 2, 250 times 2 is 500. Pru Urvu is exactly 500. Also, Ramach Evar, Reish Nun Beis Evar, add up to 500. So from all different angles, it's a minhag la'or halacha. The Marmintz, one of the Kadmoinim in Siman Kuf Tes, he says the neiros ala oiro l'simcha. We light neiros by a bris, by every happy moment. How much so here? The Medrash Talpiois Erech Choson Ma Melech Mar B'neiros Lefonov. There's a certain entourage that goes. That's the way it has to be by choson and kala. The Shulchan Ezra takes an interesting approach and explains that ish ve'isha, if they have shalom bayis, they have the kah, they have the shechina. If there's no shalom bayis, the shechina is not there, what are you left with? Eish and eish. That's the two neiros. A subtle reminder to work on shalom bayis. So that's why basically the minhag, this minhag is not simple at all. A few points I wanted to clarify. When do you get these neiros? So Fashtetzich, we know we go down to the chuppah with the neiros. Rabbi Yashiv, I guess L'Shitasai, before the Badekin, the parents got neiros. The two fathers would use the neiros. I guess the same theme that if they look at Badekin as the beginning of the chuppah, so their minhag was they went down to the Badekin with the neiros. Until when do you keep the neiros? So the emphasis, it makes sense after you get down to the chuppah, so you can put them away, maybe blow them out. The Nittei Gavril quotes with the Alter Square Rebbe said that the minhag should be to keep the neiros going until after the chuppah. Okay. Now most don't do that, but that was his minhag to keep it burning till after the chuppah. I should mention that if you do want to do that minhag, make sure it's in a safe place. You know, people just put it someplace on the side of the chuppah, and the balagan after the chuppah makes it pretty dangerous. So some put it out right after they go around the choson the 7 times. But either minhag, the ikka is, I would say, to get the message. You know, I saw the Rav Shizah once said there are 3 times in a person's life that they light neiros: by his bris, by his chuppah, and after he passed away. He says the only time that you could take the message and put it lamaisa is by the chuppah. By the bris, he's too young. Afterwards, it's never too late. Now is the time, take the inspiration and put it lamaisa. So when, how long, when you start, when you end, that's minhagim. But all agree, get the message, and b'chalei shevekdecha levanu. The next minhag is another perfect example of minhag la'or halacha, and that is the cherished minhag of the choson breaking the glass at the end of the chuppah. The makar, actually 2 stories in the Gemara, and that shows that again every nuance is accounted for. Brachis, the end of Daf Lamed Amud Beis, Marbrei the Ravina made a chasana to his son, and he saw that the Batchi Tuva. Now Rashi early on that Gemara says Batchi Tuva means they came actually to Kalas Das. Terrible. They were the pyric oil. Rashi says. So what did he do? He took a keli that was worth 400 zuz, and he broke it in front of them. And they snapped out of it. They were coming to prikas oil, and he had to do something. Now think about that. How much is 400 zuz? You know what it is? Pashut. It's 2 ksubas. So it's 2 supports. He broke a keli worth 400 zuz. Then the Gemara says another story. Rav Ashi made a chassan, the first son, and the same problem. They came to prikas oil, and he took zugisa, chiyursa, a glass, and broke it. Now if you notice right away, there are 2 differences. In the first story, he took a keli, which the most poskim assume was cheres, an earthenware, worth 400 zuz. In this one, he broke a glass, and there's no value to it. Doesn't seem like it was of great value. But what does it have to do with chuppah? If you have a wild party, you have to break a glass. Zok Toisvis, Mikan no Hagu. Toisvis is going on the second Gemara about breaking the glass. Mikan no Hagu Lishbar Zechuches B'Nesuin. Now, you wonder, like, what's the shaykhis? You know, Laida. If you have a wild party, and people give to drink, and some, whatever, I don't want to talk about, some bachim drink too much, so maybe you have to have such a, shock treatment. But if you have a Yiddish simcha, the Haibin simcha, there's no kalus roish. Well, what are you worrying about? So maybe the message is, and Takai, so the Ravan on Masech the Bros asked this kasha. If they had these terrible parties, no, you have to do something. But why do we have to do it? Maybe the message is that if there's even a chashash, and there's so much to lose, there's so much at stake, we don't let that ever happen. You know, the Gemara says about a sandal mesuma, they made a whole gezeira. If it happened once, we have to protect that. But really, what it seems for most Rishonim, that this is another example of gilu v'rada. Not that your chaysh there's going to be a wild party. Zokter Keach and Siman Shin Nun Gimel, Mashashoyvin Klei Zechuches B'Nisuin, Lefi Shenema Ivlus Hashem B'Yira V'Gilu V'Ra'ada, B'Makem Gila Sham Tehei Ra'ada. It's again a mindset. It's juggling the two important attitudes. It's a wonderful simcha, but it has to be done properly. So that's why Lamaisa, it seems that even though we're not chayshish for a prikas oil, but this is why the minhag has become a minhag kadosh. The question about baltashkas, the Pais can discuss, but the answer is obvious. It's not wasted money, it's well spent money. To squander an opportunity by a chasana of aliyah and turning it into a party is a lot more of a churban than 400 zuz. And that's why the Pais can point out, don't be worried about baltashkas. You know, some at a minute they took a broken glass. No. Take a real glass, send a message, and hopefully it will be the haibana even of gilu berada. That's why Lamaisa, the minhag, is based on two stories in the Gemara. The Meiri and Tainus, the end of Tainus, and the Kolba in Siman Samach Bey suggest a new reason for breaking a glass, and that is Zeichel L'Chorban. Now, I don't think he's arguing on Toises. Toises says the reason is based on a Gemara, because of Prikas oil. And he's saying, Chorban, once you understand that Gilu V'Rada is the central theme of it all, it's not a stira. One reason is a problem, avoid problems. And one reason is Zeichel L'Chorban, because that's a Reish Simchasi. I don't think it's a machlokes necessarily. All the reasons are true. The Chupa is Man Simcha, is a Melech, is Reish Simchasi, Avelus, is Gilu V'Rada. And that's why it's interesting that in both places where the Mechaba only speaks about ashes, the Ramah says some Mekayimers don't use ashes, instead they break the glass. And I think today, in most Tvus in Klal Yisrael, both are done, the ashes and breaking the glass. But both are themes of Gilu V'Rada in all different ways. But what's interesting is that breaking the glass, in a certain sense, has more than ashes. Ashes is the minhag of Areish Simchasi. Breaking the glass is a Gemara. And that pashtis would be as Gilu V'Rada. But again, Yerushalayim Yoytzi Deishneim, and again, B'Roiv Tvutz Yisrael, I can't say all, but Roiv Tvutz Yisrael, both minhags are observed. Now, who breaks the glass? So, what kind of shaila is that? I mean, of course the choson. You look in the Gemara in both stories, who broke the glass? The Baal Simcha, the fathers. Teretz is pashit that in a problem of prikas oil, it's the Baal Simcha's job to restore law and order. But today we understand that it's more than that. It's Areish Simchasi, and of course it's Gilu V'Rada. That's probably why the minhag was shifted, that the choson breaks the glass. That's what I believe is the change in the minhag, because now it has a different objective. For him it's Areish Simchasi. And Taka the Rishonim, I said, bring the minhag, and some of them mention beferish that the choson is the one that breaks it. What's also kedai to mention, in the Gemara there are two stories. They broke different things. Like most poskim, I should say. The first story they broke a cheres, and the second one they broke glass. You look in the Rashi, in the Gersa, it's a little challenging to figure it out, but after you be'in, you'll see that there are two stories. One was a 400 zuz kli cheres, and one was glass. We break a glass, like Taisa says, from the second story. What about the first story? So that's the minhag. By the Tanayim, you break a kli cheres. And it's dafka kli cheres here, it could be a china, whatever, or porcelain, and here it's a glass. Both minhagim are kept ad hayoim. When, of course, do you break the glass? So pashtis Areish Simchasi, when he finishes the nesuah and he's fully married. That's what l'chayr makes sense. You look in the story, the two stories in the Gemara, they did it during the Suda. Because again, that was only one purpose, to keep the Heibigkeit of the evening. So by the chuppah, so far so good. Hopefully the Suda will be on that Ramah, on that level. But since it shifted, it changed to a different objective. It's really more for the choson, for the Rosh Simchasi. That's why the minhag has become, it's done by after the Nesuin. The Shulchan or Ezra writes that some have the minhag after Eirisin, and I know some people have this minhag, some Chassidim have this minhag. After Eirisin, before the Nesuin, the choson breaks the glass. The problem is when it loses significance. You'll ask the average person, why does the choson break the glass? To signal for the band to stop playing Oid Yeshama, which is, of course, a very shallow understanding of it. It's the high point of Al Rosh Simchasi. So a choson that prepares for the chasana and doesn't fall in the Ayavan and Sukkah knows the significance of that. Asher Zechariah Levracha was Masada Kedusha of 100 Talmidim, and he always tells the choson right after this, the Nesuin, till now was Yom Kippur, and now was Simchas Torah. And that's really the truth. He's changing dramatically from Taharas Avoynis and crying under the chuppah, hopefully, and davening under the chuppah, and a very serious day of Yom HaMisa. All of a sudden, it starts to become freilich. But that's the ability of a Yid, of Gila Barada. But I could just add, I don't be Kalamai Sigareya, but what helps the transition is the breaking of the glass. That's sort of putting a closure to this phase of the chuppah, and now you're going into the Simchas Torah. The point is, Gil V'Rada is not a stira. It's the yoifi of Yiddishkeit. We have a certain neshama, we have a hearts, we have ergation, and we could really control our ergation. But this is probably the most challenging part of it, going from a Yom Kippur, from a Tishva perhaps, into a Simchas Torah. Some have the minhag that the choson, before he breaks the glass, he says, Imesh Kachech. It's probably based on like the Taz, who says that, supposed to say that, really the Taz is going on the mechab, if you look inside, about the ashes, but the Ramah says that also, so it's a good idea either to say it or thinking, and it doesn't have to be on the microphone, a little hatzmei aleches is also important, but basically that's the theme of this breaking of the glass. Just a few details. A pashtus, since it's a dvar mitzvah, so the choson uses the right foot. A left-footed person, see, left-handed has no bearing it, a left-footed person, does he use his left foot? So it really depends on the old machlekes, mechaber Ramah, and Chassidim and Sfadim versus Bnei Ashkenaz. What does he do with every mitzvah? He holds the kais. So by Chassidim and Sfadim, you follow the mechaber. Even a lefty holds the kais and everything else with his right hand. And the Ramah and the Minhag Ashkenaz is left hand. So probably the same shaila would be by breaking the glass. You have to make sure that the Masada Kedushin, which usually is the photographer, is told beforehand that there's a choson with his left foot. Don't start yelling at him. Let him do what he has to do. Again, Rav Osnan, that Tshuva writes, a Zivik Sheni also breaks the glass, Zil Basatayma. A shaila you probably never thought of, but listen to this shaila. You look in Shulchan Aruch that they used to get married Erev Shabbos. Sometimes it schlepped, and they had to get married when it was a little bit into Shabbos. So they asked Rabbi Yashiv, in that case, are you allowed to break a glass under the chuppah that took place on Shabbos? So I just saw a quote, a very brief quote in the Ashriya Ish, Amid Kuf Yud Ches, but it started me thinking, are you allowed to break a glass if it's Shabbos? So someone said, oh, you can't break a glass on Shabbos, it's Avelis. But that's wrong. The glass is not only Avelis, the glass is Taisis, the minhag, or even the minhag of a Gil V'Rada. So that's not the problem. The problem is you're breaking a glass. It's a full glass. If you break a broken glass, maybe easy of a shot. Is it Chartzim Kalkal? It's not like Yala Meis or Mila, which is an ultimate tikkun. Here, the minhag is to break something. It's not like you're fixing it by breaking it. You're breaking it to break it. So it's an absolute makalkal. Just like we're some makalkal dvar mitzvah to open up a package. Maybe that's what Rabbi Yashiv meant when he said, you're talking that it's not so bad to break the glass on Shabbos. What's more of an issue is it so correct that after he breaks the glass, everybody calls out Mazel Tov? You're going from breaking a glass, Churban, to Mazel Tov? So the Shulchan has a beautiful theme. consistent with what we learned till now. You don't end the chuppah with avelis. You end the chuppah with simcha. Or, as we said, if the whole avelis was permeated with simcha, gilu v'rad, it's not a stira. But lamaisa, that is the minhag, and avada, that's the way you end the chuppah. Now, the last phase of the chuppah, you notice I left it out earlier, but I wanted to end with this because it has a little of a guidance to the other shilas, is the unterfirer, which I'm going backwards a little bit. I wanted to end with that. And there again you see the minhag of unterfirer, where you escort the choson and kitel to the chuppah, a minhag la'or halacha. The first mention of what we call shushvin, which is really the term for the unterfirer, is a gemara in brachas amachalef. It's also an ervin, vayeveyeh la'adam, milah HaKadosh Baruch Hu shushvin la'adam arishan. So the word shushvin, kaviyachol, was by Bari Oilam and Adam Arishan. Is that the makar of a shushvin that we know of an unterfirer? No. Rashi teaches an shushvin shenishtadol b'chasnusoi l'samchoi u'l'sasik b'tzorchei sudas chuppah. Then the shushvin was the one that was an assistant to help him. But what's probably more of a makar is the Medrash Bereishis Rabbah Ches Yud Gimel, Michael v'Gavriel heim hayu shushvinan Shal Adam Arishan. Michael, very prominent, Michael and Gavriel, they were the unterfirers of Adam Arishan. I don't think it was a physical unterfirer, but that's what it says. Could be another makar, and I'm not going to tell you to the Sefer Minhag Avosenu B'Yadeinu sent me to these Marmakaimis. In the Zoy and Bereishis Daf Mem Tes, by Yiviel Adam, Mihacha Olifna, the Be'inan Abba Ve'ima, you hear this? The father and mother, the kala, le'aliola b'shusa the choson, they have to bring their daughter to the chuppah, like it says in the pasuk, as bitin asati l'ish hazeh. Mikan, that's the minhag to escort the kala to getting married. So if you noticed, interesting things about the Zoya. First of all, the Zoya says father and mother. Also, it's talking about the kala. But this seems the most similar to our unterfirer. And he seems to find it a makar as biti nasati l'ish hazeh. If she goes herself, you're not giving it. The Tashbitz cotton l'shitasai, he says, Ma melech chayolav makifan oisai, av choson shoshvina makifan oisai. It's a display of kavod. He has gabayim on both sides. The Orchos Chaim says like Matan Torah. By Matan Torah, we know that the Vaishnav was the choson, Klai was the kala, and there the malachim were the sheshvina. So again, every bit of the significance comes back and back to us to remind us, you know, how big the day is. I once heard a profound message with Adar I. You know, so much of establishing Heilig Yiddish Adairis is the kavana that the couple have b'shas ma'isa. But he's going to the chuppah, young choson. He might go too fast. He might not think of the kedusha the effect that kedusha has on dairis. So the parents have to be mechanechim. You go slowly. This is not kinder shemaises. This is nitzchiyas. So the message, whether that's the reason or not, but the message is there. You have to have a chinuch in a yoni kedusha as well. Some say fakert. You have to drag the child to the chuppah. So everything has meaning. But the lamaisa at the end of the day, the Eidos to Yisrael Amid Tzadik Zayin Al Pi Kabbalah, there's much significance in being the unterfirer. So again, it's a minhag Yisrael la'or halacha. Lamaisa, I must tell you that the Mishnah Halachas Chelikei Reish Mem Zayin and the Beis Avi Chelik Aleph Kuf Mem Beis, they both point out from the Zoya is not really a raya to the minhag of our unterfirer mamish, because the Lamaisa most people go two fathers, two mothers. Either Zoya says father and mother. So they both say the similar concept. The Zoya is talking about a katana, that it's the parents have to marry her off. She can't go herself. But who says in a typical marriage, it's father and mother? And fakert. The Beis Avi points out to Hermon Yeredei Shin Sadik Aleph Gimel that it's a totally different context. An avelis, when you have an avel, is he allowed to be a unterfirer? He says that's enough of a tzarech. He's allowed to suspend the avelis temporarily, and he could go to be machnis the choson to the chuppah. Kederech artzeinu sheshnei anoshim machnisim hachoson tachas hachuppah. So he says, l'chayra, like the minhag of most Hasidim, that 2 fathers go. So it's interesting, the Zohar seems to say father and mother, and their Ramah, Ashkenaz says 2 fathers. And the truth is, even from their Ramah is not a raya, because he doesn't say 2 fathers, he's Tishnei Anoshim. The Ramah was talking before the parents went, they had Sheshvinan. They used to give Sheshvinan to one that pays the most money, but there was a time, probably until after the Ramah, that the Sheshvina were not parents. I think we have to realize that the Sheshvina was Sheshvina. So Shnei Anashim just means 2 men, because you couldn't have a man with a strange woman. But Lamaisa, at the end of the day, here we see at least a reference to both minhagim. Which minhag is correct? So the answer is very clear to me. You follow your minhag, you're correct. The Debatzina Rav in Chelekei Kuf Samachei, he once asked the Satmar Rav, that he asked him Masada Kedushin, and there's different minhagim, what should he do? So Satmar Rav says, if someone there is changing their minhag, don't be Masada Kedushin. Don't have a part in a shinui minhag during a chasana. If Lamaisa, that was their minhag to go, let's say, father and mother, and the other one goes 2 fathers, then try to work it out. He says, maybe look around, go Basaroiv, who's paying for the chasana, but make a pshara. But if someone's changing, that's unacceptable. And he insisted not to be Masada Kedushin. I know many Gedolim that refused to be Masada Kedushin when there was a Shinim of minhag. So both are true. Shinim minhag is wrong, and keeping the minhag is correct. The next question is difficult. When can parents not be Sheshvinan? Isha Muberes, Zivuk Sheni, divorced. So I'm not going to do a job like dessert, because the truth is, it's very hard to give a klal. I once said, Brian Kamenetsky, a different shaila. I asked him, so do a klal? He goes, yeah. The guest the klal said, this and klal. These questions are very, very sensitive. To tell a mother she can't go march her daughter down to the chuppah because she's an almana, or because she's expecting, very sensitive. But then again, minhag Yisrael is important. So I think the klal is ask a shaila. There are many different factors. The kitel choson man a kluge yid. He said, Adar. Why? He said, because he was a paisik. He wrote halacha klal Yisrael. A lot of times he writes halacha yas sheilas chacham. What kind of halacha is that? The halacha is sheilas chacham. I mean, there's so many emotions, especially you're dealing with an almana. I mean, how careful we have to be with an almana to tell her she can't go with her daughter to the chuppah. So to make a long story short, again, if you want to see it, Ba'arich is a beautiful seif, minhag avseinu b'yadeinu, oitza poisim chelik tezayin. But basically, some are concerned about a muberes being a unterfirer, maybe ayin hora. So loimi boy, if it's not noticeable, there's no shayla, pashtus. And even if it is, but lamaisa, she's dancing by the chasana, and man loy kapad loy kapdinan. So many will allow it, even in that case. Zivik Sheni, some say maybe he's not Simna Tova. Don't forget, we make chasnas outside and beginning of the month, a Simon Tov. A Zivik Sheni maybe lacks in Simon Tov. But that's also hard to understand. How many Gedolei Olam got married Zivik Sheni? Is there something wrong with them? Chalila. So that's why, it's hard to give a klal. I mean, the sticky issue is when parents are divorced and both remarry, and now the choson has 2 sets of parents besides the in-laws. So that's when the right psak is yasa sheilas chacham, nishtok and klal. But again, mosain, again, to be careful there. Very, very, a very emotional time. But I should just mention that the minhag was for doirei doiris until probably the 200, 300 years ago, that it wasn't parents that was sheshvinan. So if Lamaisa, the Rav will say, you can't go, it's not the end of the world. Li'idar Gisa, what's important also is make sure that to satisfy all the needs. And the last most important question, which is the hikum of everything, is what do you do when there are different minhagim? So again, this is not simple, because a person has to be moiser nefesh for his minhag. But what do you do when you have 2 people being moiser nefesh for their minhag? So here's we have to have a little bit seichel and realize that sometimes the greatest simon tov on a person mavata. Now I want to be clear. The asked Yakov Kamenetsky what his minhag was about being unterfirer. He said, 3 I went like this, and 3 I went the other way. Yes, what kind of minhag is that? Because 3 mechutanim wanted the 2 fathers, I did that. 3 mechutanim wanted father, mother, I did that. Now, if you know Rabbi Yankov, he was an ish minhagim. He was very makbid on every nuance of minhag. But it's not a stira, because what do you do if you can't go weiter? Then you have the koyach of being mavata. You know, Pam once told me, I asked him a bunch of different shayla and ganzen, if you're in a place, you have different minhag, so you do minhag hamokum. I asked him, what about, I'm changing my minhag. Because the Yid's minhag is nishtamacha machloikis. And you don't change it for the minhag hamokum. And I'll just leave you what Pam Taka said once about this very shayla. He said, people come to him, and there's a machloikis, they don't know what to do. The mother says, I waited my whole life to march my son down to the chupa, and now they tell me I have to go with my daughter-in-law and with the two men. I can't bear the pain. Or if I care, someone says, I'm going to go march with my wife. The minhag is for Dairis, the two fathers. Pam says, you know what I hear crying, the Baskel crying out? You waited all these years to see your children married, and now, for a lich of Dalar Amis, you're turning over the world as if it's a churban? And he said, let's think about it. You waited to march down to Dalar Amis, that's your whole life goal, to marry your child. So you'll marry, you'll dance with your daughter, same simcha. And it's not preachers if you go father and mother, it's father and mother. The ikka is, we will look for a siman tov and a chasana, siman tov when there's shalom. So the klal of all klalim is, Bakke Shalom, Bret Feyum, Zal Alam Achet Simchas, a guten Tag to you.
Shem Yegan should tell like you give a big yashikert to Smith for today's share. Also like to read them, there was a campaign on Thursday that was extended for the Beis Bracha building campaign. Beis Bracha High School of Stollen built a new building and have to pay off the construction expenses. Opportunity to have a chelik in the chinuch of thousands of Yiddish girls for Dairis. I would like to be mishtatev. There's a credit card machine who can come over to me after the shir. Chananya ben Akasha Emot HaKadosh Lezakis is a shul thing here in Torah Mishnah Al and Chofetz and Matzilke Yagdol Torah V'Yadeh. Okay, Rabbi, so over here the minhag is to have the sikkim. So here we're having the sikkim.
Sit down. Good. Okay, ready? Just let's chaz what we learned today. So first of all, I think most important, there's no event in a person's life that has so much meaning like the chupa. So make sure we do it right. The word event is the wrong word, but there's no ma'imid that has so much potential. And that's why every minhag, heilige minhagim, are to bring out the best of choson kal and the parents. So it is a sugya of a minhag l'or halacha, but basically the minhag of ashes is the Gemara in Bava Basra, Shulchan Aruch, 2 places. The Yavitz warned us that some couples are not matzliach, we didn't have enough of a focus here. But Mida Taiv Meruba, the more we think about the Avelus and the Gil Verada, that brings bracha into one's family. The minhag is today only the choson is put on the ashes, the kala is yaitz with different minhagim. Who puts it on? So either the parents, the 2 fathers, or the Masada Kedushin. Some do have both. But basically, you should not put it on his forehead. That's not the right place. It's under the hat. So you can put it in a little wrapped ashes under the hat and keep it till after the chuppah. Some say, Imash Kachech, Shechazan said before, it's done to him, like the Taz says. The kitel has a few reasons. All of them are true. It's a beged mesim. It's Yaskelei Mamisa, it's Malchus, it's Tahara, it's Gilu Verada in a most unbelievable way. And that's why the minhag primarily is by a choson to wear a kitel, the kala wears the white gown. But again, it's the same concept that we're trying to blend all of these hergeshim into one. The kitel that the choson wears is supposed to carry him the Hoshana Rishonim, Pesach, and Yom Kippur. So make sure it's done with the right kavanah. Gilu Verada explains the whole theme of the chuppah, and that's why you'll find minhagim, besides Allah, is the minhag of emptying the pockets, untying the knots, taking off the jewelry. Certainly, some of the reasons are to keep that focus. Remember that the zman of davening under the chuppah is precious and priceless. Giving bracha to the children before the chuppah is a bracha that is very, very precious, to make sure it's used properly. The neiris are like matan Torah or like shishvinan. The analogy to matan Torah is striking, but there's also other reasons. The breaking of the glass is the Gemara, two different stories. It's to prevent precursor oil, but more positive, it's im eshkechech Yerushalayim. We do these minhagim until Yom Kippur is over. He breaks the glass, and that transitions into the Simchas Torah. The Sheshvinan, for the past few hundred years, is the parents, whether it's two fathers, two mothers, or father and mother. But the Ikka is to make sure that this Baka Shalom V'Ratfeyu, the greatest Siman Toiv, is the Simcha and the Shalom by the Chassan. Goyach.